Can You Make It Pretty is proud to work with GradCom, the podcast's 2023-24 sponsor.
So, Stephanie, I have to admit something.
Yes.
That I'm terrible at self-promotion, and it is a difficult thing for me to talk about because it sounds so braggy, but I was promoted. I'm the executive director of marketing and communication. So I run a team now, and it's pretty exciting.
Matt, yay!
Yeah. Well, thank you. It got me thinking.
Leadership Cohort 1.
Right. It works, people. The Leadership Institute works. I would not be a leader without the Leadership Institute. That's we go. Right. And Stephanie and I wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be friends.
No,
we wouldn't be pen pals.
It's so true.
That's a plug for something we're going to talk about in the podcast. Yeah, pen pals. Think of that. All right. But it got me thinking that, because when you're managing a team or leading a team, you're like, hey, I've got the people I've got, but if I had a dream team, who would I have, right?
Yeah.
So I want to know what your dream team is. Let me tell you who I've got.
Okay.
I've got a project manager. I've got a graphic designer. I've got a videographer and a public relations, we call it content coordinator, but public relations and social media. And I've got one open position that's going to be a web designer, developer type person. What about you? What's your current makeup, and what would your dream team be?
Oh, that's a good one. Oh, I like your dream team. I don't want to play against your dream team, but I like your dream team. So mine, I think where we're missing the gaps is I would definitely keep a couple of my existing members, and then I would supplement. So if I only had to choose 5, my starting 5, we're getting sporty here. If we're going to do starting 5, videographer / drone / video editor. So lots of slashies there. Keep up with me.
Just video, period.
Boom. Website. So we do have a web designer on our team. And so he manages the visual aspects, the back end aspects. He's not a content creator, but that's someone on my starting lineup. Graphics, obviously can't do without them. I wrote down a student social media manager because I feel like what's lacking in my area is that student perspective. So I almost would like someone who just works with the students and just manages that point of view and creates content with those students and for those students, if that makes sense, and not just general college content. And then my last one would be a staff writer or a content creator specifically for written things. So whether it be copywriting. That's what I meant. Why was that escaping me? Copywriter.
Words are hard.
That's my starting 5. Words are hard. That's why we need a copywriter.
Yeah. Well, it's all of us end up with so many slashes on our titles, right? So it's like, it's not just, hey, go capture this video. It is edited and make something awesome with it and all of that. And by the way, you're a drone pilot now. And you're also managing work studies because you need a whole production team. And, and then, what you're talking about with the copywriter, that's the idea with our content coordinator. But that steps into other areas because they're not just writing copy, they're writing and sending press releases. They're writing and releasing social media content. And by the way, also managing work studies because you need a whole team of people to actually make this happen.
Absolutely.
So if you've got your team, they're out there playing the ball game, the thing with the ball and, putting it through to make a goal unit.
Yes.
You've also got people that are in the bullpen bench, sideline starting area. Who are those people? So you got your 5.
Yes.
Who would you want to be able to call in and get some action with? It's very clear, by the way, for all of our listeners, how much I know about sports. Sports, yay. All right, go ahead. The
sportiest person I know.
I know.
Go sports. I think the additional people I would like on my, obviously we're dreaming, an SEO person would be great because we have so many people who just a SEO person. We have so many people that say, no one sees our stuff. People are visiting and here's the analytics behind it. And so someone that could just do deep dives into that day in, day out. I was just in GA4 yesterday, Google Analytics 4, or actually are we in 4 or are we in UA?
Yeah, it's 4.
I don't remember anymore. I was in analytics yesterday, and it's just the amount of time that it takes just to pick any useful data that someone can then utilize to make a case about anything is so time consuming. So if I could just have an SEO person and just an analytics person that could then look, and then I would team up with my content person, right? Have them work together, finesse things.
Totally on my bench too is that analytics person and that optimization person. Because it's one thing to get this stuff out there. It's another thing to get it out there and then have a fresh set of eyes look at it and go, oh, you could actually make it better this way, that way, or the other way.
Yeah.
Who else? I'll tell you another one I've got.
Tell me.
Photographer. Photographer. I mean, it's nice to have a videographer capturing all of that stuff, but it would be nice to have a photographer to take staff headshots, to go and just take still images, stuff that we can get up on social right away. Man. Ugh.
That is so obvious. How did I not think of that? Because I'm usually the person doing that. Why did I not think of... Oh my gosh.
Right?
I am also a slashy. Aren't we all in other duties as assigned?
We are. Yeah, totally. And I also have, this is probably the weirdest or biggest ask would be an ads team, because you couldn't just have like one ads person. You'd have to have, the person for Google ads, the person for Facebook ads, the person, them spinning the dials and all of that.
Yes.
We love our agency partners, but it would be nice to be able to throw agency fees into advertising ourselves.
Totally.
But that's why we have agencies, because it's not really possible for any of us to do that. Yeah.
No. And again, it's a giant time suck.
Yeah, right? And who has time for that? So you can't, if you had an ads person, you couldn't even slash them, because the minute you slash them into other stuff, they're not doing ads effectively anymore.
Not at all. So talking about dream teams, let's talk to someone who is a true all-star.
After each national and district conference, we send out an evaluation survey. One of the questions we ask, what sort of programming do you want to see more of from NCMPR? After the 2023 National Conference in Orlando, the number one thing we heard? More programming for small staffs. Our research has found that 42% of members have staffs of 2 to 5 people, definitely on the smaller side. But 3% of members, they're a team of 1. Today's guest is one of that 3%. Our all-star Chelsea Hayes is the Marketing Communication Specialist at New Mexico State University Alamogordo. Chelsea, really? You're it? You're really the only person on your team?
Yes, I am the only marketer on our campus. That's full-time, at least. I was able to hire some student employees, too, to help me with some stuff that started this semester, praise God. But I definitely need more help.
So one person doing, let's list the jobs. So public relations, is that a yes?
Yes.
Advertising?
Absolutely.
On-campus promotions?
Oh, yeah.
Print production?
Yes.
Ordering print products?
My supervisor helps me with that too.
Okay. Social media?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Press releases?
Yep.
Emergency communications?
Mixed bag, but mainly.
I guess a better question is like, what don't you do in the marketing realm? Because it sounds like everything.
I mean, I really don't think there's anything I don't do, because I'm very good at delegating. So it comes to me, and then if I'm like, sorry, it can't be me, like I will find ways to delegate. So I guess we'll put it that way.
And with your students, I'm sorry, I'm taking over all of this. With your students, what type of stuff do they do? Do you have they have special positions or?
Yeah. So I was able to hire 2 student employees. So my one student employee, his name is Nick. He helps me specifically with graphic design, and then he also helps me with photography. And then my second student employee, her name is Emily. She helps me with social media.
Oh, that's great. So at least there's some help. And I mean, social and video, those are just huge helps that both things that take up a ton of time and pull people away from internal comms, emergency having to sit through those meetings, and you can't build strategy if you're trying to create content for social. So team of one, we've covered that. Was there no one there before you? How did you come to be a staff of one?
Yeah, so this is a great question. So it's a very unique situation here at NMSU Alamogordo. So I specifically am hired under a Title V grant that was given to the campus back in 2020. Also around that time, the campus unfortunately decided that their marketing department was going to be fully dissolved. So because of that, they haven't had a marketing department officially since 2020, but they have me as the marketing communications specialist, but I've been in this role since February of 2023. So I'm very new. Prior to me, there was somebody in this role with the grant, but they had left a year prior to me starting. So the campus definitely did not really have anyone prior to my start. And I came in with a lot of, there's faculty members creating graphics and it's all out of date. The branding is wrong, a lot of that stuff. So I was like, all right, just let me know what you all need me to do because, like I said, I'm hired under the Title V grant. So I have to balance between assisting the campus with its marketing while also being part of the grant.
So Title V, for those of us that don't know, can you kind of go into that a little bit longer? Because it sounds like you're splitting your time between traditional PIO duties or Director of Comms duties and then Title V, not criteria, but needs. So what does that look like?
Definitely, yeah. So Title V is a Title V grant that was awarded to the campus in 2020. It's awarded to any campus that identifies as a Hispanic serving institution. So we are a Hispanic serving institution. Love it. And our institution has over 50% of our students that identify as Hispanic. So it's pretty large here. So definitely one of my goals is to find ways that we can properly communicate towards our Hispanic students and prospective students. So that's really exciting for me because I am passionate about people. That's something that I always love to say because we all have stories, we all come from different walks of life and we all don't learn the same, right? So it's important for us as marketers, right, to make sure that we are communicating to them in their preferred communication or language. So I'm definitely, working closely with our faculty here who do speak Spanish because one of the things I've been trying to implement is for our newsletter to come in a copy that is in Spanish. And it doesn't have to be I'm not making it super long, but enough where it's you can capture at least the nuts and bolts of what you need. So I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You did. So thinking about the structure of your campus then and knowing that you're half Marcom and half Title V, who do you report to? What does that org structure, I guess, look like?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, right? So I mainly work directly with our Title V director. Her name is Sophia. So she's kind of my backbone too to help me when it comes to advocating for things that I need and also making sure that there is still boundaries of yes, I can assist the campus with marketing, but I also have my objectives and goals that I need to meet for the grant. So it is finding that balance and everything. I know I spoke with Jeff Julian about this and he was like, Chelsea, he's like, how do you do it? And I'm it's definitely, a labor of love. But I'm passionate. I do love what I get to do. Yes. Can it be trying? I can be honest in that. Absolutely. But, at the end of the day, I know I'm leaving an impact in a way that's going to make students happy, but also faculty and staff. I come in and I'm telling them about new programs that I'm trying to do or new software systems, and they're for it, which is awesome because usually you get a lot of pushback from faculty who are just no, we don't want it,
And of course, all of that resonates with our listeners. I mean, every single one of us is, facing challenges like this, using our passion to pull us through. I'm curious, with that chain, is there anyone else that has a marketing background? Like, does your supervisor have a marketing background? Anyone around you to lean in onto?
Yeah. So my supervisor does have some graphic design background. She actually worked with graphic design for a little bit and also worked in a print shop. So she has a little bit, but she by trade, she is an accountant.
Oh.
So she has that background, which is actually great for me right now because I'm doing my prerequisites for my master's in business administration and I'm taking accounting. So I would actually send her a Teams message like, "Hey, are you busy? I have a question."
I have a question about balance sheets and free cash flows.
Yeah,
what's going on? And can you make it pretty? Of course you can.
Right?
She's a graphic designer, right? So when you have questions, when you run into challenges and you're facing situations you haven't been in before, who do you go to? Who do you ask questions and who do you lean into to find the answers?
Yeah. So I'm very fortunate. So in my previous role, I worked for a military base overseas, and my boss, she was our marketing director. So she's still there, but every now and then I'll just send her a message like, "Hey, do you know anything about this?" They want me to do this, and I know. I've seen you do it. So can you refresh my memory? And she's great. But the cool thing about this role is that my supervisor now, Sophia, she really is an advocate for me just to do things, right? And she tells me all the time, "Chelsea, if you want to learn how to handle the budget," because I kind of handle the budget. That's a different experience for a different day. But I kind of handle the budget too. So she's like, "Yeah, do it," because she wants me to put it all on my resume so I can say that even though my official title is marketing communication specialist, I can say I was doing a lot of director roles and responsibilities.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's important to have that tribe.
When I think of community college marketing, I think of GradCom. As a full-service marketing agency specializing in community colleges, they have the experience and expertise colleges need to move the needle on awareness, applications, and enrollment. Whether it's research, design, web, or media, GradCom does it all. But don't just take my word for it. Visit gradcom.com. That's gradcom.com for case studies about the many NCMPR members who have used GradCom to help them grow the number of students who enroll and succeed in college. So you mentioned that you were in a position before on a military base where you did marketing. Are there parallels to community college? Have you found that some of that you've been able to bring over to this new world, to the 2-year world? Yeah. Was it just a complete whiplash of oh my goodness?
Well, there's definitely some whiplash because, it's my first time in higher ed. And I was actually saying before we started how I never thought I would actually end up in higher ed. When I got into marketing in that previous role, I realized how much I loved it, but I thought, I'll probably do it for another company. I didn't think I'd end up in higher ed. But when I got this role and I saw the opportunities that it had in regards to just really impacting a student's life, even I impact my faculty and my staff and everything in different ways too. I was that's what I'm passionate about. So I knew I was in the right place. In regards to just how that kind of worked, it did help me a lot in this role because where I'm located in southern New Mexico, we are in the same town as a military base, Holloman Air Force Base specifically. So I already had that understanding of I know how a military base operates. I understand the kind of do's and don'ts that they have or the regulations that they have. So it helped because we do have our VA office here as well. So I was able to help them out and just say, hey, I can help you get in contact. And another comical part to this is that my first boss, that was at my previous job overseas, she's here too. And she works at the military base. So she's a great point of contact that I was able to kind of give our VA office here to say, hey, like, I know this person, this is the person you need to speak to. She's going to help you with everything. So, yeah.
Probably a lot of similarities in the bureaucratic structure too. So, I mean, I know that can be a shift for people coming.
I will say, at least it's not as crazy with chain of command, because in the military, at least in the Air Force level, chain of command is like very serious. They take it very seriously, and they're very much like, oh, like, did you go through the chain? And it's just like, yeah, but if I know, like, this, I'm just going to ask, like, and they definitely didn't like that. But I was like, did the job get done?
Right.
Chelsea, as a team of one, you already mentioned that you delegate a lot, which I think is really important. And I fear a lot of people maybe struggle with that because they feel like they have to complete everything. Have you found... are there any tools, any social tools, any digital tools that you have found that help you as a team of one? I can imagine that sometimes it feels like, oh my God, this is also overwhelming. So I was just curious, are there any tools that you use on the internet or paid tools that you have found to be really helpful in allowing you to manage workload expectations without having to say no to things? Because that is also, sometimes we feel like, oh, I don't want to say no and I know it needs to be done, but realistically it's me. Or realistically, it's a team of two, or, what have you. So what have you found works best for you, tools-wise?
Yeah, tools-wise, I love programs that kind of like are a one-stop shop. So that's something that I'm always like saying to my folks here. I say, let's find the tools that are one-stop shop so people can have everything they need in one place. So one tool that I've implemented here that I love is Linktree. So I really love Linktree because it is like a one-stop shop. You can put all the links that you want to share on any social platform. I think there was some stigma in the beginning with Linktree that it was only for Instagram. You can put it on any URL bio that you have for your social media channels. So we have ours on our Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, which is now apparently X, but right. We'll see how that plays out. So we have it all on there, which is great. And that has helped us so much because one of the issues that faced this campus was that people kind of didn't know where to go for things. Like they knew we had a website, right? Which is awesome. But they didn't know, like, okay, when I get to the website, where's areas of study? Where's this? And that's just something we're still working through. So I was like, well, let's try this and see if this helps. And it truly has. I love tracking things because I'm like, that helps me to prove things that I'm doing. So that would be a tidbit that I would say, like, track everything because that is your evidence of what you're doing and why you need more people. So yeah, I've been tracking those metrics and we are seeing, skyrocketed in regards to our areas of study page. We're seeing like about 100 to 200 people landing on that a day, which is awesome for us. So yeah.
So Linktree, I will ditto that. I very much enjoy that product. I use the free version. Are you using the paid version?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, we use the paid, but
it sounds more robust.
Yeah. Well, I can also say, so our advertising/marketing budget, it was collecting dust. So I was like, well, we have money, so I'm going to use it.
I think you said the first thing that does not resonate with anyone, a marketing budget that is gathering dust. Wow.
It's not gathering dust now.
No, of course. But I'm just saying.
Yeah. Now they're looking at me like, Chelsea, how much more are we going to spend? I was like, oh, we're spending more. Spring is coming.
Love that. Any use in AI? Do you use AI at all to help with your day-to-day?
So I haven't transitioned to AI just yet, but it is coming. It's everywhere. I mean, it's here now, I've seen it actually a lot with Canva, which is a big tool I use as well, especially being a team of one. I have to also throw that in there because, like I mentioned, I have 2 student employees and they, Nick, for example, he does have a graphic design background, but he's studying that right now. So he's building his knowledge. So I love Canva because it is a tool that can be used for somebody who's in that like middle ground learning, or even if you're just starting out, it really is a tool for anyone just starting out. I created a Canva Teams account for the campus. So that way, our division heads, so we have 2 divisions here. We have arts and sciences and career and technology. So our division heads, they can be on it. And then when they have their folks who are staff or their assistants will design anything, they can put that through that digital approval process. So that is available with Canva Teams. So 120% recommend that because like I mentioned, delegating, right? You need to get people involved. But sometimes, right, people are fearful, or maybe they only know like certain things. Having a tool like Canva Teams kind of helps to like get rid of that fear of like, well, this is like the baby version, So.
Yeah, and it's a workflow without being so overwhelming because, again, team of one, you're the one that needs to look at that once it's produced and approve it and pass it on. That's another great tip. Yeah,
so 120% Canva Teams. Like, if they wanted me to wear a T-shirt, I would do it.
So we've been
not a plug, not a paid plug.
Not a paid plug.
Sponsored by Canva. So circling back to Jeff's question, which is essentially what we've been trying to ask this whole time, is like, how do you do it? You've mentioned a tribe of mentors, you've mentioned tools, you've mentioned delegating, pulling in student workers, tracking things that you have so that you have evidence. You haven't talked much about self-care, about the other side of this, how we maintain our sanity. And, so what are some tips or tricks you might have for some of us that are feeling that a little bit? And then how do you do it? How do you manage that aspect of the job?
Yeah. So a big thing that I tell everybody is set boundaries. You have to, you have to set boundaries. You have to put in place things that, you are able to do and not able to do. I know people are fearful to say no, but there's a lot of power behind no, right? And I mean that in a way of like the peace that comes after when you say it and you say, hey, we can't do it right now, but we can work on it. Or, it's just not going to work. And here's why. Like, I'm very much of like, here's why. So when I'll give you an example. I had a faculty member had reached out to me. She wanted to do a video of her class. They were doing a presentation. It was something kind of fun. Her class is a criminal justice class. Yeah. So she wanted us to do a video. So she had emailed me and she was like, the only thing, Chelsea, is that it's happening today at like 2:00. She emailed me at like 11:30. So I said, hey, I love the idea. However, I think with the timing, we're going to run into some logistical issues just because we have a couple of other tasks ahead of us. And, she came back on email and said, oh, but I can record it on my phone. So then I said, hey, also love that. However, because of the way we produce a lot of our videos on our social media channels, we want to make sure that, the quality stays good for all of our viewers. So that way we're not running into, oh, is the audio okay? Oh, the quality is a little off. So I told her, I was like, if you want to let me know what your schedule looks like for your next couple presentations, let's do it. And she was more than willing. So, I very much try to like give that like, love that for you, but here's the, here's why we can also, maybe work around this or find another solution. So yeah, it is boundaries. It's deadlines, definitely, or lead times, right? Those are very important. I'm very on top of lead times. I found that when I put in lead times, sometimes some people will try to do things on their own, but they'll still come back to me and say, hey, so I tried to do it on my own. It didn't work out. And I say, hey, appreciate the effort. No problem. Send it to me and I'll get it back to you when I can, so it is a lot of just, hey, this is what we can do, and I very much reiterate my position here. I remind people all the time, I'm the marketing communication specialist with Title V. So really my main needs are Title V. So I make sure that's handled. And then, as other requests come in, I will let them know like, hey, this is what it's going to look like. This is how soon I can get it back to you. But also leave when it's time for you to leave. I have to say that because in America, and I say this because I've lived overseas, in America, we are good at burnout. We really are. We're really good at it. We're really good at overextending ourselves. But I've been able to really, tell myself, no, Chelsea, take your full lunch break. No, Chelsea, like leave at 5, like it's time to go. Especially now that I'm a student as well. I definitely have told myself, nope. Like, like if I have to leave, I have to leave because I have to do homework. And it helps to have that support from your higher ups, right? So when you get that and you're transparent about it, because another thing is you can't assume people know what you're doing. People assume what you're doing, but they don't know exactly what you're doing. So it is important to have that transparent piece and really just be like, hey, this is what I can do today. But I promise you the work is going to get done and it's going to get done well. So
yeah, and that's ends up being the hardest part of the job, I think, for all of us, is that we start the day with a to-do list that will never be done, and we end the day with a to-do list that will never be done. So taking those moments for ourselves and taking that the time to give that time to ourselves, that was a great sentence, is, it's hard to do that, especially when there's passion behind the work. So I really admire your ability to do that. Because I have a whole team, and it's hard for me to step away at the end of the day.
I hear you. It's because we care.
And being one person, it definitely focuses in and helps teach you what you love and what you don't. So what's your favorite part of the gig and your least favorite part of the gig?
Favorite is when I get to host events. Honestly, that's my favorite because that's my opportunity to really connect with our community, because we're really big here on having our students invite their families, their friends, cousins, whatever it is, like we want them. So when I have the opportunity to meet a student's family, right? Maybe it's a student that I've collaborated with on a marketing project, or, they've just stopped in my office because in my office I have affirmation cards and everything. So I try to have, students come whenever they just need a break. But when I have that opportunity to connect with students and their families, or some people like to call them like stakeholders, the people who are investing into them, I get so excited because I have the opportunity to like thank them and just say, your child or your best friend, like they are absolutely incredible, and here's why. So that is my absolute favorite part of the job. And the feedback that I do get. I know some people are like afraid of feedback. I love it because I like to know what it is that's working, and what's not working. The least favorite, I think, I could be transparent here, right? It's a safe place.
Safe space. This podcast, safe space.
My least favorite is having to split the work. I will say that, and having the boundary, just because if it were up to me, like I would go all in on just being the marketer for the campus, because there's so many things that I do want to do, but I also give myself grace in that, where I'm just like, girl, you're one person, and it's okay. It's going to come to fruition eventually, where, I've done projects where it's just like, man, like that took me like 3 months, but it got done and people love it. So at the end of the day, it's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Chelsea, last question for you. Okay. Since this is an NCMPR podcast and you don't have anyone, there was no one in your role before you, how did you find NCMPR?
Great question. So luckily, so the person who was in this role before me, I don't know if they ever attended a conference, but they had registered with NCMPR. Her name, I don't know if anybody would know her. Her name is Monica Stevie. She's super awesome. She actually works at the public schools here now. And her and I have talked a few times. She's really, really awesome. But she had still been in, I guess, the NCMPR system. So a letter came for her. And my supervisor before, the one I have now, her name is Jesslyn. She was like, oh, Chelsea, she's like, NCMPR. She's like, you got to go. And I was like, oh, okay. So it was actually funny. Before I started, she had told me once they offered me the job, she's like, there's this conference that I know that's coming up in March. So she was like, I'd like for you to go. I was like, oh, wow, I haven't started. I'm going to travel. Music to my ears, So I was very excited. And I got registered, and, instantly when I was at NCMPR, I was like, oh yeah, these are my people. Like, this is great, so I'm definitely grateful that, the person before me, she didn't fall out the NCMPR system, praise God. So I was able to find you all. And I've just loved every minute of it. I love how everybody here is just all about like, what do you need, right? How can we help you, even with your crazy schedules? So I appreciate that because that's how I am. I'm very much like, but how can I help you? Even though I have like 10 things happening right behind me.
Well, shout out to your supervisor for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And direct mail? Do we shout out direct mail?
Direct mail.
Shout out direct mail, yes.
Wow.
Hold the fort down since 1870s. Direct mail.
Yeah, really. Well, Chelsea, we're so lucky to have chatted with you today and then also to have you as part of our NCMPR community. Welcome.
Thank you.
Shoot anyone an email anytime because the sentiment is shared likewise. Yeah. Please reach out. We're so glad that you've decided to, chat with us today, but also be an active member of NCMPR. And we hope that you get out of it as much as we've gotten out of it over our years of membership. So thanks so much.
Of course. Thank you. I'm excited to be here. So thank you for having me.
Can You Make It Pretty is sponsored by GradCom and presented by the National Council for Marketing and Public Relations. NCMPR is the country's premier group for PR, communications, and marketing pros at two-year colleges. Can You Make It Pretty is mixed by Bill Aldridge at Third City Sound in Joliet, Illinois, and produced by me, Jacqueline Johanna Garver. I'm the Communication and DEI Manager for NCMPR. If you like what you heard, we'd love it if you subscribed, downloaded, rated, and reviewed Can You Make It Pretty wherever you get your podcasts. And if you didn't, you can skip that part.